Hey, what's up guys, Impulse7 here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a summary on the third and final story in the Fazbear Frights book 10, which is called Together Forever. If you haven't already, check out my summary on Friendly Face and Sea Bonnies. As I said in those videos, if you want to also read the full book yourself, you could buy it on Amazon or another website or something, or you could find it in a store. Or if you don't want to buy the book yourself but you still want to read it, you could check out Ozone's channel since he does audiobooks for the stories and he's already completed the entire book. So yeah. As always, after the summary I'm going to discuss any lore that may be in this story, if I do find stuff, but without further ado, let's just get straight into this. So the main character of the story is Jessica. She's a sophomore in high school and she'd been recently named the homecoming queen, and her best friend Brittany was the homecoming princess. Jessica is kind of a bitter person. She and Brittany are apparently some of the prettiest girls in school, but they're not very nice. She's really egotistical about the fact that she's homecoming queen, and she treats herself as royalty. And she's really pushy and gets mad if not everything is done when she wants it done, or the way she wants it done. For example, she has a boyfriend named Derek who's a senior and he plays football and stuff, and the dance was only 3 days away and he hadn't gotten the tux yet, which had pissed Jessica off. She also stares at other dudes' asses while she's hanging out with her boyfriend, which is weird. Like her friend Chase, who also has a girlfriend named Stephanie, who Jessica is friends with, blah blah. After that, we get a little scene with two annoying redhead girls named Cindy and Mindy. They apparently have really annoying voices and names that belong to pets and dolls rather than real girls, and apparently they're like disgusting or whatever. One of them sneezes a lot, and yeah. They're also 8th graders. The only reason they're there is because their junior high school went under construction. So yeah. So they're almost late for history, but they managed to make it just in time. And then later they're in the cafeteria at lunch, but they know that wouldn't be a problem because that it's full because like they're egotistical and act like royalty, as I said. So everyone would just make room for them anyway. And a kid named Evan does as well. Wow, I'm in the story again. I believe this is like the third time the name Evan has appeared in Fazbear Frights' story, and besides Mike, I think it's the only one. That makes me think the name is most likely important. Why would Scott reuse it 3 times? With the 3 separate Jeremys, all of them had some connection, such as losing their face or the way they act due to certain circumstances. But with the Evan characters, they don't really have any connection, they're just there. And yeah, Scott reuses names, but 3 times for one name? I don't think he would have any reason or desire to do that. Either way, it doesn't matter. Cindy and Mindy also show up in the cafeteria and with sandwiches in childish containers, and everyone stares at them because they're weird. They're sitting in Jessica and Brittany's seats, but eventually they get up and they go sit somewhere else. But Mindy is called back to go get Brittany a spoon because she didn't have one. Derek and Brittany's boyfriend named Roman wave to Jessica and Brittany as they're leaving and ask them if they wanted to get burgers later. Jessica and Brittany also found out that Mindy and Cindy were going to the homecoming dance, which they thought was insane because they were technically not even in high school yet. Jessica told Mindy and Cindy that they're nobodies, and then they told Jessica that her mom told her if someone is mean to you, it's probably because they don't like themselves. And that made Jessica even more furious than she already was. Anyway, now Jessica and Brittany go to robotics class. The teacher, Mr. Thornton, came in and told everyone to talk amongst themselves for a few minutes. Mr. Thornton is kinda like an animatronic with the way he doesn't look directly at you and doesn't finish a lot of his sentences. So yeah, it's kinda weird. So he brings in a cart full of vaguely man-shaped, alien-looking gray robot skeletons. And that to me just sounds like endoskeletons, and I'm pretty sure that's what they're meant to be. I'm pretty sure later in the story it's actually said that they're endoskeletons. There were also a bunch of robot animals like dogs, cats, which reminds you of Fetch and Faraday, but yeah. There's also a cow, flamingo, horse, orangutan, a black panther, and interestingly, a big pig. And that's what's interesting about this, is that it's the only animatronic that's actually human-sized, and that makes me think it's definitely meant to be or represent Pig Patch. It could even be the same Pig Patch from the Puppet Carver, but we don't know for sure. But it's also a different character from the game version of Pig Patch, because it has a lot of clothes on and an outfit the game Pig Patch doesn't have, and it's also named Rosie. But if I'm not mistaken, I don't think the Puppet Carver Pig Patch was described very much, but I could be wrong. So this task is to take on one of the animatronics and program it to do a specific task and then show the class. The pig was too heavy to bring home, so whoever got her would have to come to the evenings to work on it. Brittany and Jessica didn't want it, but they got it. But based on what happens later in the story, this is actually really interesting. So we cut to them after school when they're going to work on Rosie. They're given some papers to know certain things about how she needs to work. Then Cindy and Mindy show up and talk to Mr. Thornton, and Brittany and Jessica joke about programming Rosie to knock them down and sit on them. So they press a button and open up Rosie's chest cavity. Inside, it's mostly empty and it looks big enough to fit a person inside, which gives Jessica an idea. I'm going to quote some exposition from the book about the suit. Basically, Jessica looks at the papers and reads, quote from the book, "Rosie Porkchop is a dual-purpose animatronic. The system can be engaged in traditional animatronic mode and also in human interface or suit mode, i.e., Rosie can be worn like a suit." There was more, but Jessica's gaze flicked down to the page to the word "warning," which was followed by a paragraph of bold red writing. Jessica quickly read through it. Rosie Porkchop contains spring locks. Spring locks engage to allow Rosie Porkchop to function autonomously in animatronic mode. When engaged, metal components fill the interior of the animatronic. Rosie Porkchop can also be worn as a suit. This is called human interface mode. When Rosie Porkchop is in human interface mode, the spring locks disengage and retract into Rosie's endoskeleton. Do not switch modes while Rosie Porkchop is occupied. Sharp components of the spring lock system can cause serious bodily harm. End quote. So there's a bunch of information about spring lock suits, a lot of which we already knew, but it's really nice to get this exposition in a Fazbear Frights story. So they planned to get Mindy and Cindy into the Rosie suit and trap them in during homecoming to humiliate them. But when I read this, I got major New Kid vibes, which resulted in giving me Bite of 83 vibes. But they also planned to program Rosie to capture them into her stomach, which also gave me Circus Baby vibes. Then Brittany came up with the idea to program Rosie to serve them while they're in the suit, so Mindy and Cindy could act as their servants. Wow. Smart. They began an upload and then left to go have burgers with their boyfriends and decided to come back later. Mr. Thornton gave them the after-hours key, and so they left. Then we cut to Jessica, Brittany, Derek, and Roman at a burger place called Burger Dom. There's a bunch of people there, which is pretty normal. Someone on a bike rode past them and almost ran over Jessica's foot. And Jessica and Brittany then realized it was Mindy on the bike. They looked at each other and smiled, excited that they would soon get payback. So there's a long line, but that wasn't a problem for Jessica since literally everyone will just let her pass. And they grabbed the burgers and went to eat. Later at 8 p.m., Jessica and Brittany got back to continue working on Rosie. The hallway was dark and ominous, and they kept checking their backs to make sure no one was in the building with them and following them. Once they made it to the classroom, they quickly turned on the light and put a table in front of the door, so nothing could get in case there was something to get in, since the classroom doors didn't lock. The girls were kind of creeped out, so they calmed down by trying out lip gloss they just got. So yeah, they began discussing what they wanted Mindy and Cindy to do and began taking notes about what they'd want them to do. But then both of them saw something move on Mr. Thornton's desk, and it all felt like the animatronic eyes had been staring at them. Brittany grabbed an animatronic arm to defend with. It turned out to be a small animatronic rat, and Brittany destroyed it with the arm. Then they began coding things like Rosie capturing Mindy and Cindy, as well as certain commands to make them serve her. Once they were done, they activated Rosie, but Rosie didn't really work properly. She grabbed Brittany by the shoulder really hard, which actually caused Brittany to bleed, and Rosie picks her up and starts putting her inside her chest cavity. Jessica tries to pull her out of Rosie's grasp, but she wasn't able to, so she tried to turn her off, but she couldn't reach the control panel to turn her off. Rosie had let go of Brittany's arms, but was now pushing down on Brittany's skull, and then she had been pushed inside fully, and the chest cavity closed. Jessica kept working on getting her out. She stood on a chair but still couldn't see the buttons, so she went off how they felt. She accidentally flipped a switch. Rosie starts to shake and even falls onto the chair Jessica is standing on, knocking her down and making her hit her head. She looked up at Rosie, who was convulsing. Although, I think any of us who have read The New Kid already know, Rosie isn't convulsing. Brittany is. Especially since right after Rosie started convulsing, Brittany screamed. Then the screaming stopped and Rosie went still. Jessica panicked. She looks up to see what switch she had pressed, and she realizes she had accidentally switched Rosie from suit mode to animatronic mode. I think we all know what to say here, so let's just say it together. Rip. At that moment, she hadn't remembered what the instructions had said before, so she just says sorry as if it was a small mistake and means nothing. So she switches it back to suit mode and the hatch opens up again. She's excited about this until she goes around to the other side and sees blood. She realizes what's happening, but she doesn't want to believe it. Just like what she did to Brittany, Rosie grabbed Jessica by the shoulder and started shoving her into the chest cavity. Jessica panicked even more. It was also at this moment that she realized what went wrong. She had accidentally flipped the codes earlier, meaning Rosie would capture Jessica and Brittany and make them serve Mindy and Cindy instead. So Jessica was put inside Rosie. When she went inside, she felt squishy and slimy stuff inside. Obviously, the remains of Brittany. And she was able to see her organs, her cut-off face, her blonde hair, and everything all mashed up on the insides of the suit. From the top of the cavity fell something Jessica thought was a piece of Brittany's skin and blood and stuff, which is just disgusting. Then she heard a voice, Brittany's voice, asking for Jessica to help her. Obviously, Brittany is dead, which means Brittany had possessed Rosie. Brittany also says she's cold, which I find kind of weird, but it probably means nothing, but I don't know. But right then, Jessica hears a click, and she instantly understands what had just happened. Jessica got spring locked too. And then she dies, and that's pretty much all we get. Then we cut to Mindy and Cindy as they come into the robotics class. They struggled to get the door open, but when they did, they saw that it was barricaded with a desk, even though no one wasn't inside except Rosie. They said hi to Rosie, and then, shockingly, Rosie responds. Rosie explains how she was Mindy and Cindy's servants now, but they also realize that Rosie is speaking in Jessica's voice. They also notice a drop of something red on the floor, and they assume it's paint. When Mr. Thornton comes in, they say they traded projects with Brittany and Jessica. Mr. Thornton doesn't mind much, so then he flips to suit mode and animatronic mode switch, and nothing seems to happen. He mentions how he read the day before about Springlock suits and how they went out of commission because they were deemed unsafe, which is interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The ending is gives a bit more details on the two dead bodies in the suit, which is actually really cool, but it's not really too important that I describe it, so yeah. Now let's talk about the lore, which is very interesting. After the New Kid story came out, a really popular theory has been Golden Duo, but I really don't like how people only believe it because MatPat said so, which is why I made a whole video dedicated to the proof of Golden Duo, which you should definitely check out if you haven't already. But I think this story definitely strengthens Golden Duo and completely destroys an argument that some people have with it, while also proving it in certain ways. There's only really two big issues people have with Golden Duo. The first is not addressed in this story, but debunked way back in FNaF 3. But still people use it as evidence. I don't know why. The theory is that Golden Freddy is actually a ghost, but this is confirmed not to be the case through the FNaF 3 Stage 01 minigame. In that minigame, we literally see the physical suit of Golden Freddy. And if you want to say that this is Fredbear and Scott just retconned his hat and bow tie color, to that I say, number one, why would he do that? Like, it's not important what color their hat and bow tie is. There's no reason he would retcon it. I don't know. And number two, the Silver Eyes graphic novel shows Golden Freddy wearing a brown hat, just like we see in Stage 01, connecting this Stage 01 Golden Freddy to the one who is possessed. And I know a lot of people are going to ask how Golden Freddy teleports, fades out of existence, and turns into a head, and the very simple answer is that he's not a ghost, but rather a projection from the spirits actually inside the suit. I just remember that I'm explaining something that has nothing to do with the story. What am I doing with my life? The second problem people have with Golden Duo is that it breaks the laws of possession, but this argument is really stupid. The entire argument is completely made up. People say the only way for multiple spirits to possess one object is if they are two separate possessed objects combined into one. And yes, we've seen that happen before, but it's never been stated that it is the only way. In fact, it's been stated in this story itself that it's not the only way. You see, Brittany clearly possesses Rosie, but the fact that Mindy and Cindy also hear Jessica's voice confirms that she possesses Rosie as well. This means Jessica and Brittany actually possess Rosie together. No multiple possessed objects crap. No external method. Nothing. They just both possess the suit, all on their own. Basically, what this story is trying to tell us is that there are no rules for multi-possession. The question you need to ask yourself is, why would we need to know that? Clearly the main four don't have multiple spirits, the toys have one spirit each, BB and JJ might not even be possessed, but even if they are, most likely just by one spirit each. Mangle might have two spirits, but Mangle actually is made up of two possessed objects combined. So that only leaves Golden Freddy. Also, regarding Jessica and Brittany, notice how they're both trying to get revenge on people? How there's two of them and there's two people they're getting revenge on? Sounds a lot like the bite victim and Cassidy to me, with Michael and William respectively. Also, I'd like to point out that Mike seems like an egotistical person. In the logbook, he draws himself as powerful a lot of the time, and in Sister Location, he literally has people cheering for him on his way home after he's done only a single shift. That's it. And it's worth noting that the girls Jessica and Brittany are trying to get back at are told by Rosie that they are queens, and they just say, can't argue with that, which makes me think that they're kind of ego-driven in a way too, connecting them to Michael, and that makes sense. But Cindy also kind of follows what Mindy does, which connects Cindy to Mike in the way that he follows in William's footsteps to kind of undo his work, and he also does what William tells him to do in going to Sister Location. It may be a stretch, but it kind of just fits together in a weird way, and I think it works. Either way, just the fact that multi-possession was addressed, to me, is enough to prove Golden Duo. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you agree with me? And also, leave your thoughts on the story in the comments down below. I'd say it was pretty good. Not as good as Sea Bonnie's, but about on par with Friendly Face. But we still have one more summary to do. The Stitch Wraith epilogue. I've heard a few spoilers about this one, but I've tried to stay blind to it. Stay tuned for my summary on that epilogue coming out hopefully tomorrow, and I'll see you all in the next video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.